I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. On Tuesday, President Trump will deliver his first State of the Union address. It is arguably the most important speech on any president's calendar, a chance to look back and look ahead. George Washington delivered the nation's first State of the Union address on January 8, 1790. Among his priorities for the new nation, the growing respectability of the country, the importance of a well-prepared military, and immigration. In Washington's day, that meant any free white individual was welcome to come to America's shores to apply for citizenship. Fast forward more than 200 years, and President Trump will likely be addressing similar challenges. And with control of the House of Representatives and even the Senate up for grabs in this year's midterm elections, members from both parties and voters will be listening to the president's every word. Among them, Arizona Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who perhaps is the president's toughest Republican critic on Capitol Hill.
If I have been critical, it is not because I relish criticizing the behavior of the President of the United States. If I have been critical, it is because I believe it is my obligation to do so.
We were at the Capitol with Senator Flake. Senator, thank you for having us here. We appreciate it. Let's start with the State of the Union address. What do you want to hear from President Trump, and what do you think we will hear from President Trump? And I'll let you answer that in either order.
Well, what's good to hear is kind of a message of unity. You know, you have the entire Congress there, and it's good to have a unifying message. You know, I think the best addresses that I've heard in the 17 years I've been doing this have been those that try to unify. I don't know if we'll see that. I hope we do. From now on, you know, almost everything is 60 votes. We have to have bipartisan bills, and so it'd be nice to have a unifying message.
You delivered a speech where you announced that you would not be seeking re-election, so you'll be leaving at the beginning of 2019. And there are people, I know you know this, who've said, well, if you are disappointed in the direction of the country and often very critical of the president himself, why not stay? Why not stay and fight for what you think is right?
Well, you know, it's difficult for a Republican like me in a party like this right now. This is very much the president's party. I'm not happy about that. I think it's taking us in a direction that we won't be able to win national elections for long. You can gin people up for an election cycle or two, bring out the base, but overall we won't be there. And I felt that if I ran the kind of race I would need to run to win in a Republican primary in particular, then I wouldn't be myself. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I would have to accept positions that the president has taken, and more specifically condone the behavior that the president has exhibited. And I just couldn't do that.
What do you think is going to be the impact to the Republican Party?
When you look at the country and where we're going, you look at young people and their failure to register as Republicans or to embrace this kind of vitriol. They aren't buying it. And when it comes time to vote, when they do start registering to vote more and vote more in greater numbers, then we're in deep trouble. And you look at some of the Trump rallies out there and you think, this is, I've called it the spasms of a dying party. People want, elected officials to govern, not just campaign, but to actually govern. And to govern, you've got to compromise. You've got to reach across the aisle.
Can a moderate voice as a Republican make it through a primary and win in 2020?
I'm doubting it.
Are you saying that you would run as an independent?
No,
is this you? Would you run for the presidency?
I'm not saying that. It's not in my plans.
You don't want to? You're done with politics? I can't believe that.
I don't know about that, but this fever needs to cool a bit. But I do think that there will be an independent challenge, certainly. And I frankly think that there will be a Republican challenge as well, with not much of an expectation of winning, but to remind Republicans that there's still traditional conservative Republicans who believe that this should be a decent party as well, and that this kind of smash mouth era will end. I hope that happens.
I hope that happens too. Senator Flake, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.